welcome to my little corner of the UPPSTART conference. Welcome to my session, peeps. Yeah, I'm going to give a talk about how to implement the social development goals into your startup. And to be honest, I'm going to do my very best, but it's going to be really hard for me to explain this to you in 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come up with some pointers. I have a case with me, and then we're going to get into a discussion around, how we're going to be implementing, or what I see as the best way to be implementing. So just to say a little bit about myself, I am currently actually not employed by anybody. I'm starting up a business myself. But before I'm talking to you about that, I want to talk to you about being a plus social good connector at the UN Foundation. It's a role that I have had for the past year. And one of the things that we have to do is that we have to talk about the SDGs in a local context. And I'm the first Danish plus social good connector. There are 14 other people in my class, and we are working together on projects and around the SDGs, and also giving conversations around this on Instagram. There's an Instagram live later today that we're going to be doing. I'm going to do one on Monday about COVID-19 and the SDGs. Yeah, so there's a lot of really, really good stuff going on there. We're also going to do a massive, what would you say, push around the UNGA, which is also going to be virtual this year. Unfortunately, we're not going to be in New York. We hope that we're going to be there next year. But it's really an honor for me to have been selected as a part of this group. Yeah, it's amazing. So what I want just to touch on briefly is what I'm building right now. I'm building a creative laboratory that is going to create social impact through invention, culture, and community. And how are we going to be doing that? We are going to be doing a crowdfunded NGO, which is an NGO that only runs on crowdfunding. I have a background in the NGO industry, so I think that I've seen enough to actually figure out, how you can implement the SDGs, how you can create real impact, which I also think is the message behind the SDGs from a, what would you say, from a crowdfunding perspective. We're also going to be doing consultancy, and we're going to be doing tools for change, currently developing some climate cards that we hope that a lot of businesses are going to be using to implement the SDGs, and we're going to be building new ideas and concepts. So that's a little bit about me. One of the things I think sets me apart from a lot of other people is that I've been schooled in what I would call positive sustainability. I have been working with especially SDG 13 and SDG 5 for a lot of years. And instead of being really bummed out by this, I see that there are so many opportunities. If you just look around and be inspired by what's going on in the world, there's a lot of way that existing businesses and startups, they're starting to, I would call it pivot their business model towards more impact, towards the SDGs. And there are like a lot of ways that you can do this, and I'm going to be touching briefly upon it, or not briefly, but I'm going to be touching upon it later also. Oops. One of the things that this is also tapping into is that I feel like when I'm out talking to people, there are a mega trend, or a couple of mega trends that are actually aligning around the SDGs. One of the things that when you talk to young people, they're not talking about being passionate about something when they work. They're talking about being purposeful instead. Yeah, I think if you just start listening to the people out there, who are applying for their first jobs, I think impact and the SDGs is a way for a lot of people, or a lot of startups and businesses, to diversify from the rest of the market, even though it seems like it's getting crowded. I mean, it's really not compared to how big the business world is. I think that still impact investment is only less than 5% of total impact. I think it's all the way down to 2, actually. I don't have the actual numbers, but it's not a lot if you see it from the broader perspective. So if we look at, just us being geeks around the SDGs and around sustainability, I think there's a lot of really good work that can be done. And I think it's going to be, what would you say, essential for businesses in the future to have some sort of SDG implementation plan, to have some sort of way to reel the youth in, to get them to work around this, because that's what the kids want, I guess. Yeah. Another thing that I really also would emphasize is that there is a lot of edge giving by this impact thing. Investors are crazy about it. There's a lot of impact accelerators being made. There's a lot of money going into this field. So if you're a startup, the only thing I can say is just get in there, like implement the SDGs. It will make you stand out compared to others. It will make you like, what would you say? It would also give you a way for you in the future to not be set aside because you're not thinking SDGs into your value chain or into your workplace or wherever you can think it in. And another thing, the SDGs is an incentive to act. Like if you as me have been at a lot of these really top level meetings with a lot of suits, I'm not a suity person myself, with a lot of suits, with a lot of people wearing SDG pins on their, what would you say, on their suit themselves. This is really an incentive to act. Like it's not about only talking at these conferences as this high level, at these high level events. It's actually acting instead of talking. Like it needs to be action now. Like I can't stretch it enough. Like it's something that we all need to think in, and we all, like I have a slide about this, we all need to do our share, and I think that there's this huge misconception when it comes to sustainability, but also when it comes to the SDGs, that you have to implement all of them or a lot of them, or you have to, for example, you both have to have like vegan lunches, and you also have to have like, a water saving thing on the toilet, and you have to reuse all your trash. And for me, I think everything adds up. It would be great if you do that, but I just really want to say, you can be a guy who's flying all over the world, but you can choose to, eat vegan, or you can be a girl who is, only wearing vintage clothes, but you're eating a lot of meat. I don't really think that we should look at this from a fanatic point of view. I think we should look at it as from that everybody can do something, everybody can do something around the SDGs. Yeah. So as I was saying, there's two types, or I want to get into like I see like two types of how you can create positive change. One of the things is what I was just mentioning, is like changing small things in your startup. It could be changing, the toilet. It can be starting to reuse food waste, figure out, is there some services in the cities, they're popping up everywhere these days, that will take leftover food and, use it for biofuels or give it to the homeless or something. There's a lot of possibilities when you first start to look at it. It could also be, not having like, light savers on the switches. I think there's so many ways that you can actually figure stuff out and actually get with how to change things around for more sustainability, and stand out at the same time, towards the youth and towards the people who actually wants to work in a purpose business. Another thing that you could also look at, which I think is essential, but it's another type of change, is to look at how you can pivot your business model towards the sustainable business goals, or sustainable development goals, not business goals. I'm mumbling, sorry. There is a lot of ways to do that. I have an example with me that I really think is cool, based on COVID-19, and how they have transformed their whole business model in like a couple of months to support the health SDG compared to just be yet another company. And I think we can all think about this, how to change up the business model so it's actually supporting something else. So 2 types of changes. I have a quote with me. You have to act if it is possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. I believe that to the core. Like, we have to stay positive around this. We have to think, as Al Gore says, the leader of climate reality and the former vice president, you know, we will beat this, you know, we will implement the SDGs, but it needs to take all of us. So this is the startup I was talking about. This is a Tunisian startup, Indigo, used to be just a taxi startup that kind of has, what would you say, transformed the whole taxi system down there. But they decided 2 months ago that they would temporarily become a delivery service. So people could get food for $4 an hour, and they would deliver groceries. And that's the stuff we need to pivot towards. Like, right now, it's needed because of COVID. I think it's essential that we think about how to do these things and how to change up the business model and say, okay, like, is there anything we can do around gender equality? Like, could we, for example, if we hire people, is there a way for us to put in a system so we can hire more diversity? And I have to go on because I only have 4 minutes left. Sorry, guys, getting behind here. So this is, if you Google like how to implement your SDGs, this is what it would come up with. I just grabbed this from Google and I think it's brilliant. You know, you can look through your value chain, align with the goals, select the targets, find the gaps and put plans into action. But I really like a more participatory way of doing it. So what I've been working with at the NGO I was with, and also I was at a Nordic think tank where we also worked with SDG implementation, was that we would do an SDG workshop approach, and it would basically be participatory. So we would put up on papers like all 17 goals, and we would get all the workers there and our partners together for a huge dinner and say like, okay, right, these are the goals, these are the sub targets. Which one do you think we can deliver on? Because people, they really want to be a part of this, and they want to drive, you know, the change. So they came up with so many cool solutions every time I did this, to how can we pivot the business model? How can we pivot, you know, the office or our approach to how we're doing business? I think for a lot of them, it's just, how are we going to get this down on paper? And I think it's an important way to actually work around it, is to involve everybody, so everybody's also taking ownership, and it doesn't just become a communication exercise. As a branding professional myself, I really crave substance in the businesses who are doing this, like who are practicing as they're preaching, and we all need to do that. And I only have 2 minutes left. Oh my God. Yeah, I want to emphasize on the SDG compass that has been made by Rainmaking. I know Alex Farsett is also talking here today. I don't know if you already had, or he's going to be doing it real soon. But they actually have, I just took a screen dump on it. You can find it on rainmaking.io. They have mapped all the SDGs. I don't know if you can see on my screen, it's kind of small, you know, but they have all the SDGs, and then they have, what would you say, what startups, and it's actually startups, are working with which SDGs, and they colored it so you can see how much funding they have got. So I think that's a really useful tool. Another tool that I didn't want to bring a slide around is the Global Opportunity Explorer, which was a tool that I helped create when I was at Sustainia. I did the first prototyping on it, but it's more targeted towards really big businesses. Yeah, and that's it. That's how you implement the SDGs in 15 minutes. What do you think, guys? You can reach out with me. I'm Henriette Weber everywhere. My email is henriette@commonthird.com. And yeah, I hope we are all going to be connecting and, you know, figuring this out together, because we need all hands on board. And now it's 15 minutes past. So go out and save the world together with me, please. I would love that.
See ya.